Now available in paperback and e-readers, all about Nikki, A Fabulous First Season. The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air meets Clueless in this absolutely fabulous African-American 1990s teen sitcom. Get all 13 episodes of All About Nikki, The Fabulous First Season in paperback and e-readers today. Hollywood Historical Couples in Crisis. One of my viewers wanted me to do another installment in the Hollywood Historical Couples in Crisis series. And for this installment in the Hollywood Historical Couples in Crisis series, I'm going to be talking about superstar actress Lindsay Lohan's parents, Dina Lohan and Michael Lohan. Now, the first person in this Hollywood historical couple in crisis I'm going to be talking about is Lindsay Lohan's mother, Dina Lohan. Now, Dina Lohan basically was the model for most of Lindsay Lohan's dysfunctional behavior, and it's possibly the reason why Lindsay Lohan herself wound up on the road to becoming a woman in crisis, because she learned a model of dysfunction from her mother. Now, Dina Lohan originally started out, before she got married, working as a singer and a dancer. And as she was working as a singer and a dancer, she eventually wound up marrying Michael Lohan in 1985. And after marrying Michael Lohan, she was looking to build a family with Michael Lohan, who was a stockbroker and a guy who was out here as a Wall Street trader, making really good money in his 20s and making that really good money. This was what possibly motivated Dina Lohan to get involved with Michael Lohan based on her natural hypergamy. And as she got involved with Michael Lohan in her natural hypergamy, she thought she was going to be in a good marriage, and as she thought she was going to be in this good marriage, she started having children at an early age. She wound up having her daughter, Lindsay, in 1986, and eventually what happened is the relationship started to fall apart, and as the relationship started to fall apart, this is where Dina Lohan basically wound up on this road to becoming a woman in crisis, who possibly started having issues with alcohol. And I talk about this in a chapter of The Woman Crisis called Alcoholism and Addiction and the Woman Crisis. There's several chapters that's related to addiction in The Woman Crisis, because women have more addictions than men. But possibly Dina Lohan wound up on that alleged road to addiction as related to alcohol, looking to escape the marriage that basically was deteriorating to the point where Dina and Michael wound up separating. And as they wound up separating, this is where Dina Lohan basically started on the road to becoming a woman in crisis, showing her daughter Lindsay a dysfunctional example, and showing her this dysfunctional example as she looked to continue trying to hold on to this man. Now, eventually, in 1988, after separating, they did come back together, and I believe the only reason why Dina basically came back to Michael Lohan, who himself had his own issues with alcohol and addiction, basically was to try to maintain a family, where she wound up having more children with Michael Lohan. She had another daughter, Aliana, in 1993, and two sons, Michael and Dakota. As related to things, he had one son, 1988, Michael Jr., and Dakota in 1996. And eventually, after they tried to hold this family together, she was trying to hold this family together and looked for an escape, not only with alcohol, but also looked to escape into the entertainment industry. Now, she was basically, I think, wanting to go into the entertainment industry, looking to live vicariously through her daughter, since she could not have that success as a person in the entertainment industry, because Dina Lohan, again, was a singer and a dancer, and I basically believe she wanted to be an actress, and she wanted to go out here and be on the road to becoming a star herself. And since she couldn't be that star herself, what she did was go out here and become a stage mom who basically wanted to go out and basically make her daughter into this star. Unfortunately, as she was looking to make her daughter into this star and mold her into this star, sadly, Dina Lohan created a whole dysfunctional situation trying to maintain a marriage with Michael Lohan. A marriage with Michael Lohan that neither partner really wanted to be a part of anymore, but was just there for the children, and basically showing a model of dysfunction in front of their children, a model of dysfunction in front of their children, as she looked to go out and again be the stage mom who hoped to make her daughter into a star. And eventually what happened with Lindsay Lohan is she went on the road to becoming a child star, becoming one of the biggest child stars of the late 1990s and early 2000s, and Lindsay Lohan went on to become one of the biggest stars of the 90s and the 2000s. Basically, Dina Lohan further went down the road to becoming a woman in crisis, and as she became a woman in crisis, her marriage basically wound up deteriorating as she got caught up in the entertainment industry. And as she got caught up in the entertainment industry, this is where her hypergamy wound up kicking in. And as she saw that she could basically have a success through Lindsay, and saw that she could have a success with a lot of different reality shows like Living Lohan, she basically started looking at life and seeing that she didn't need to be a part of this toxic marriage, a toxic marriage that was basically formed together basically as related to her hypergamy, because she basically, I believe, got involved with Michael Lohan all because she thought he had money and resources, and now that she could possibly start making connections as related to her daughter's career and then get connections for herself, this is where Dina Lohan looked to divorce Michael Lohan. But as she divorced Michael Lohan, she still had issues as related to alcohol addiction, and those issues with alcohol addiction basically came to a head in 2013, and came to a head that led to her getting arrested for speeding and driving under the influence, and she had to do community service and had her license revoked. And that basically showed that she had a serious issue with addiction to alcohol. Alcohol she was drinking to escape the situation as related to the dysfunctional situation of her family and the dysfunctional situation of her not being able to have the success that her daughter had, that she was living through vicariously, because her daughter basically wound up on the same road of dysfunction, because this was the model she saw as related to her life. And basically, Dina Lohan was out here still having these issues, I believe, with alcohol and addiction, because if you're having situations with driving under the influence, because she had an arrest in 2013, another one in 2020, and another one in 2020, where she had to plead guilty in 2021 for having an accident and then having a DWI. She was this, and that last one she was sentenced to 18 days in jail, loss of her license for 18 months, and had to participate in a DWI program where she had an ignition interlock put on her car. And it really showed how this addiction to alcohol possibly was a look to escape the whole dysfunctional situation as related to the relationship she had with her estranged husband, and the dysfunctional situation she had with both of her daughters, Lindsay and Allie Lohan, who learned from their first teacher to escape problems by taking alcohol, learned how to escape her problems by drinking alcohol. And this issue with alcohol basically is one of the foundations for her being a woman in crisis, and in fact passing that whole dysfunctional whole framework of mindset of addiction onto her daughter. So with Dina Lohan, she's one of these women in crisis, basically due to her issues as related to her issues with her husband, and those issues led to her looking to escape, first through living vicariously through her daughter as related to her road to stardom, and when that didn't work out, she basically looked to go back to the bottle. So Dina Lohan definitely was a woman in crisis, and a woman in crisis that shows us the the issues of women when they have to deal, when they try to escape their problems instead of confronting their problems, and how their inability to deal with their problems basically puts them on a road to one of the addictions. Again, I go in depth on this in my book, The Woman Crisis, how women go out here and use drinking to escape, and they use drinking to escape their problems, but sadly what that drinking does is lead to them having more problems, and those problems basically lead to that woman going further down the road to becoming more of a woman in crisis as related to addiction. Now, the second person I'm going to be talking about in this historical couple in crisis is Lindsay Lohan's father, Michael Lohan. And Michael Lohan basically was on the road to becoming a man in crisis before Lindsay Lohan was born, or before he ever got involved with his wife, Dina Lohan. Now, Michael Lohan was on the road to becoming a man in crisis due to being a stockbroker at the age of 20 years old. And as he became a stockbroker at the age of 20 and was trading on the floor of the commodity exchange, Michael Lohan got caught up in the culture of Wall Street in the 1980s, where a lot of men looked to escape their stress and looked to escape their stress of working on the stock market by going out and drinking lots of alcohol after the stock exchange closed. And after the stock exchange closed, some of these men also got caught up in not only drinking lots of alcohol, but they also looked to go out and take drugs. And it's alleged that Michael Lohan had an addiction to not only alcohol, but also an addiction to cocaine. And as he was out here and looking to make money on the stock exchange, he wound up getting this addiction to alcohol and drugs as he got involved with Dina, a former singer and dancer, and wound up marrying her in 1985. And as they were looking to go out and build this family, they wound up having two children. They had Lindsay, who was born in 1986, and then he had a son, Michael Jr., born in 1988. And as this family was dealing with the stresses of Michael's addictions to alcohol and drugs, the entire relationship between Michael and his wife Dina started to deteriorate. And as it started to deteriorate, Dina looked to separate from Michael in 1988 when Lindsay was just 3 years old. And as she looked to separate, eventually they wound up coming back together, mainly because Dina wanted to possibly keep their children with their father, and wanted to keep their children with their father because it would be better to raise the children with the father rather than have the family be divorced. And basically, as they looked to come back together as a family, as related to things, they really were not connected together like they used to. And possibly this is what led to Dina having the motivation to look to escape, being in a home with the stress and tension with Michael Lohan's issues as related to his addictions to alcohol and drugs. And this is possibly why she was possibly, as she was having other children, motivated to start getting her daughter into going into becoming a child star to live vicariously through, all basically due to the foundation of the extremely dysfunctional relationship that Dina and Michael Lohan had. And as Dina and Michael Lohan were just basically together for the sake of the children, this is possibly what led to Michael Lohan having issues as related to his relationship. And as they separated in the 1990s, he got involved with a massage therapist. And as he got involved with a massage therapist, they basically possibly had a sexual encounter in 1995 while Michael was separated from Dina for a second time. And this is where Michael Lohan wound up having a child outside of his marriage named Ashley Horn, which he had with the massage therapist Christy Kaufman Horn, and didn't know about this child until around 2008, after his divorce was finalized from Dina Lohan. But that didn't really help as related to things, because as Michael Lohan got involved with another woman, a former tabloid reporter, Kate Major, he eventually wound up getting involved with her on Easter weekend in 2010 and continued in the same paradigm of dysfunction that he basically had with Dina Lohan. And as he participated in this dysfunctional relationship, it was issues of his with addiction that basically led to this relationship deteriorating, just like the relationship he had with Dina Lohan. His relationship with Kate Major wound up deteriorating as well, as he was dealing with alcoholism as it related to the culture he learned on Wall Street, where he said drinking always led to coke, and basically showed how he was looking to possibly escape issues as related to the verbal abuse and alcoholism he got from his father, who basically modeled dysfunction for him, because after his father wound up dying and he inherited his pasta business, this is possibly what led to him further going down the road to addiction, because he saw addiction modeled for him. And as he saw addiction modeled for him, this is what led to Michael Lohan having issues as related to his relationships, and possibly looking to get involved with a person in a codependent relationship. And that's what led to him getting involved with not only Dina Lohan, but Christy Kaufman Horn, and then Kate Major, where we see this whole pattern of dysfunction, where Michael Lohan basically his addictions basically led to his relationships falling apart as related to his relationships, as related to him having those relationships. And as he was having those relationships, eventually he wound up having not only the children with Dina Lohan, but had 4 children with Kate Major. And as that relationship basically fell apart, and he was dealing with those issues, he saw his father basically die of stomach cancer, but then he had his own health issues, where he was dealing with left main cardiac disease and having heart issues. And basically, after having these heart issues, he basically had to reduce his stress, but his stress was just getting just that much worse, because he then had 4 children with with this woman, Kate Major, had 4 more children, had sons, Landon and Logan and other children, and again had all of these children, and again was continuing to have issues. And then he lost custody of his children as related to things, and then his wife basically looked to separate from him. So what happened with Michael Lohan is that he was a man in crisis, because he basically learned addiction from his father, and took those addictions to escape from. And even though he had great success as a Wall Street trader and made lots of money, he was a man in crisis because he learned dysfunction from his father, and that dysfunction from his father led to him having a dysfunctional family, and that dysfunctional family had created intergenerational dysfunction, where his father was an alcoholic who was dysfunctional. He wound up marrying a woman and wound up becoming an alcoholic himself. And what's even sadder is that his daughter, Lindsay Lohan, who had great success as one of the great stars of the late 90s and early 2000s, wound up becoming a faded teen star and basically a washed-up celebrity at this point, who was dealing with her own issues of addiction. And Lindsay went on to have her own child. So this whole situation with the Lohans shows us how dysfunction is taught from generation to generation, and generation to generation learns dysfunction, and it becomes like mother and father who were men and women in crisis. They create children who are in crisis. And basically what happened in the case of Dina and Michael Lohan is that their children, in spite of their success, became children of the corn who grew up like stalks, showing how people in crisis create children in crisis, and generation after generation creates a vicious cycle that can only be broken when someone acknowledges addiction and acknowledges how addiction is destroying their life, and make efforts to make steps to overcome it. Now, if you want to learn more about what motivates men and women to wind up on a road of dysfunction and self-destruction, you can pick up my books, The Man and the Woman Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find The Man Crisis and the Woman Crisis at other online booksellers like Draft the Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. And if you want to see me make another video about a historical or Hollywood historical couple in crisis, you can send a donation for a minimum of $15 to the PayPal or the Cash App, like the viewer has done to request a video. And if I can do research on these individuals, I will make that video for you. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and Kindle, All About Marilyn. Learn all about the struggles of a faded former teen sitcom star in this absolutely fabulous 5-star screenplay. Get All About Marilyn in paperback and Kindle on Amazon.com today. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.